Now, he might have a better chance, Wilson, of being traded next offseason, given the money involved. If Seattle dealt him in the coming months, they would face a dead money charge of $39 million, as this is the largest year he is due. Last year, he is due guaranteed money. Another tricky issue, it wouldn't make financial sense to deal him until after June 1st, which of course is after the NFL draft. So just a hunch, if they're going to trade Russell Wilson, they'd be looking for some picks. Anyways, we know the money involved. Let's talk about the specifics. Dan Orlovsky has changed, but let's talk to Dan Graziano. Dan Graziano, what should we make of the latest out of this news in Seattle?
Dan just has another jacket ready to go in case he wears the same color as somebody else. I don't understand how this works.
He's a fancy man.
I am impressed. But, yeah, Field, I was starting to say before you and your fellow Masters champion got into it there, I think that this is somewhere between, it's not like a everything is hunky-dory Tom Brady in Tampa Bay situation, but it's not even close to a Deshaun Watson in Houston situation. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks still have a relationship. They've been in contact this offseason. Yeah. They've been able to tell each other what they do and don't like. And I think this is a situation worth watching because if there's a list of potential trade destinations, it just makes sense that you can't rule things out. But I don't get the sense that the Seattle Seahawks are making plans that involve having to find a new quarterback. And I don't get the sense that the Seattle Seahawks are particularly worried about Russell Wilson forcing his way out of there, at least not this offseason.
All right, Mina can take a deep breath now. But when you look at the four teams that were mentioned, that were listed by Russell Wilson, Mina, do any of them actually make sense?
No. I understand why it might seem to Wilson like the grass, or shall we say the jacket, is greener on the other side. When you actually look at these teams relative to Seattle, I don't see the upgrade, especially if his concern, as we've been told, is getting back to a Super Bowl and winning and being protected. I mean, you can go through them all. Chicago, yes, better defense, not a better offensive line, lack of weapons. The Raiders, there you've got a better offensive line, some skill players, but a defense that isn't certainly not going to get you past the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Moving on to the Cowboys, well, I mean, they're just a mess. We saw what happened when they lost Dak Prescott, even though they've got some skill players there. That defense is a tire fire. The only team that I think, as currently constituted, is competitive or even better than Seattle is New Orleans, but from a cap perspective, that's insane. And beyond all of that, none of those teams that I just mentioned have the sort of draft picks it would take for Seattle to be incentivized to even do a deal. I just don't see this being realistic, especially as Dan laid out this offseason in particular.
Yeah, this is either about Pete Carroll or it's about brand and legacy. It's two-sided. Listen, in the past couple of weeks, Russell Wilson has essentially thrown the offensive line under the bus. He's talked about the personnel on the football team not being good enough. Now there's four teams that he would go to, and then we find out that there's a conversation between him and Pete Carroll that ends poorly. So if this is about him and Pete Carroll and Russell being tired of playing for a defensive-minded head coach or, trying to find all the different reasons why he's unhappy in Seattle, when Seattle's got to choose Russell Wilson, they would have to move on from Pete Carroll as their head coach, fire Pete Carroll and go, okay, Russell, what do you want? If that's the issue here at the end of the day, then how do we keep Russell and how do we help build ourselves into a Super Bowl contender again? But if this is about brand and legacy in the long term, 10+ years from Russell Wilson and even trying to become the NFL's first version of like Magic Johnson, it's a done deal. His mind is already made up. One more year in Seattle would not change that. So if that's the case, if this is the situation where it's brand and legacy, the Seattle Seahawks need to realize, okay, his mind is made up. There's nothing we could do, and try to get as much as you can for a very important player.
But if it's about football, Dan, I think Seattle has options or things they can do to accommodate some of Wilson's demands, specifically improving the offensive line, which is the only thing that he's been explicit about in terms of the change he wants. You don't have a ton of money, but invest it in the interior of that line. Corey Linsley from Green Bay is a free agent. That's someone where if they went out and signed him and they have not invested a lot of money in free agents on the line, that would send a message. Okay, we hear you, Russell, and we're going to protect you better.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's sort of what he's looking for. And I think if this offseason goes well and the season goes well, then we're talking about something that we a year from now, hey, remember when we were talking about Russell Wilson getting traded? Wasn't that ridiculous? I think that's a potential outcome here, and maybe even a likely one. But yeah, Seattle very much focused on what they can build around him.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.